From dungeon to domain. Why your campaign dies before name level. What level did your last campaign die? I asked this in the last video, right? At the end of the last video, to put it in the comments. I wanted to see your comments, right? So level 7, level 8, a few people said 9. People said it kept going forever, but almost nobody said name level. And I want to dig into that, right? Because I don't think that it's a coincidence. I think campaigns die at exactly the same level for exactly the same reason. And Gary Gygax diagnosed this in 1979. The reason isn't just player drift. It isn't scheduling. It isn't the DM ran out of ideas. It's that the game Gary designed has a survival system built into the rules from level 1 to beyond, right? A system that keeps the party hungry, keeps them moving forward, it keeps them alive, and carries characters all the way to name level. And most DMs are running the game without it. So today we open the DMG again. The Dungeon Master guy, this guy right here, this dude right here. And go through the system that he talked about in there. The 4 mechanics, all raw, rules as written, all in there. And any one of them will change how your campaign feels. All 4 together, your campaign won't die at 7th level. So, all right, you guys, welcome back. This is Angelo, DM Angelo from the DM and Friends. This is the series arc, the dungeon to domain arc. I want to show you guys and talk about what happens when we get to name level. So here we go. Let's get right into those 4 things I want to talk about. So mechanic 1. And this one rewires the entire game, right? And that's goal for experience, right? I talked a little bit about this before, but in first edition, the primary way that characters gain XP isn't killing monsters, right? So put this in your game. This is one of the 4 core pieces that I'm talking about here. It's recovering treasure, right? The 1 gold piece equals an experience point. And only gets, you only get it if you physically get it out of the dungeon. The monster XP is almost secondary. It's minimal anyways for monsters, right? Gary is explicit about why on page 84 of the DMG. Treasure must be physically taken out of the dungeon or lair. Right, and turned into a transportable medium of some sort, or stored in, the player's stronghold, or the bank at the town, or the city, or to count for experience points. Right. So on page 84, let me go there. Page 84. There we go. Okay. He says treasure must be physically taken out of the dungeon or lair and turned into a transportable medium, or stored in the player's stronghold, to be counted as experience points, right? So they don't find treasure and just get the XPs right there. I make that error a lot, and wow, I'm going to change that. So if I'm talking about it and it's in the DMG, I'm going to do it. But right, so you have to get it out. You have to get it out. It means combat isn't the goal, right? It's combat is a hazard standing between you and your goal, which is treasure. Players need to avoid fights or figure out a way to get it without risking the hit points, right? Because that's what's going to kill you. And there's what this is what that does to the campaign arc, right? When XP lives in gold, players are always hungry for the next score, right? They have a reason to go back in. They have a reason to be cautious. They have a reason to hire muscle. You know, they plan their approach. They care about the encumbrance. The loop never gets born because the loop is built around scarcity, not combat. You know, strip gold for XP out of the game. Which is what every edition after first edition basically did, right? And you're left with combat as the only XP engine. Okay, so combat is the only XP, and combat only XP produces what, guys? You know, exactly the campaign everybody's running from, right? Fight, level up, fight bigger. The loop that runs out of game at every level, you know, at that 6th, 7th, 8th level. So mechanic number two is, and I've talked about this a little before, is the training system. And I know I got a great amount of comments from you guys about this, you know, and I use this, and I have. But I also play games where I've skipped this. But I think this is a very big, important thing that Gary put into the books, right? And this one is the most, you know, biggest piece of design in the DMG, right? You know, the training system, the training system. In 1E raw, you don't accumulate XP and automatically just level up. You have to train. Training costs cost time and gold, and the amount of gold depends on how you played your class and that level, right? So on page 85 and 86, let me show you guys this. Yeah. So page 85, look at that stain on this book. And page 86, he goes through the rating system, right? So let me actually read a portion of this. There we go. So he says that. He says this particular, let me see here. Okay, he says briefly, the performance, assess the performance of the character after the adventure. Did he or she perform his skills? And I'm gonna paraphrase this to his class. Where his or her actions are you know, kind of keeping up with his or her progressed alignment and class, right? Mentally classify it, he says, as an E as excellent, S is superior, F is in you know, fair, and P is in poor, right? And in that, so you have a scale now of how well they did, right? So after every single adventure, you privately rate the character, right? The player. Excellent, superior, fair, poor. You know, the fighter, did he do well or crappy, right? You know, so did the thief do good or bad, right? So now this means a lot to the player. It's a mechanic for the player, right? So when the player accumulates enough XP, right, you average the performance ratings across since the last level. The average, the number between 1 and 4, tells you how many weeks in gaming time the character must spend training before they gain the level, right? So there's a big formula on this on here. So it's 1500x level of trainee character. It's on page 86. You know, level of the character times 1500 weekly costs during that's the weekly cost of the training, and then excellent is 1, superior is 2, poor, fair is 3, and 4, right? So it could get expensive, right? It could get super expensive. There's incentive to playing your character like your thief as a thief, right? And you know, the gold cost could you know, so think about the campaign, right? Think about this, what this does to the campaign. Characters can't rocket through levels, right? Advancement, you know, is a resource decision, right? Do we spend the gold on gold? Do we spend the gold on things or training, right? Do we hire soldiers or training, right? So, I mean, obviously everybody's going to lean towards training to level up their character, right? But it's a choice now. It's a real choice. And the in-game time requirement does something else too. Like the world's going to work around you as you're training. Like, so A, you better be playing your character to the excellent mark. And B, if you don't, a lot of things are going to be happening around you. And if you make enemies, those enemies have a lot of time now to build up forces and really surprise you when you're done training. So training is going to create pressure, and it makes the world feel like it doesn't pause for the players. So that's a big piece, right? So the third mechanic I want to talk about is hirelings, right? And I mentioned this before in video number, the intro video here. So hirelings are a key to getting you to that name level, right? You know, in 5e, NPCs and hirelings are just kind of background characters, right? Well, in first edition, that was not the case. If you went in a dungeon, we hired people to bear the torch, to bodyguards. We paid them 5 gold, a day to be in the dungeon with us. First, because now instead, you guys know the reason why. Now instead of having one person, now you have 2 hirelings. Now you got 3 bodies that could soak up hit points, right? So in the hireling section starts in page 27 of the DMG, right? Where is this here? 28 of the DMG. So, standard hirelings, expert hirelings, men-at-arms. Gary designed a complete system around finding them and paying for them. So the hireling section in the DMG is right here on page number 28. Read it. Check it out. There's actually, God, now that I really think about it, there are all the way up until 30... Yeah, and then you got the Henchmen side too, 35, up to 35. So that's 28 all the way to the loyalty section on page 36. So there's a big section on there that you should read. A first level fighter with 2 men-at-arms now has, a fighting chance in that dungeon, right? So, and here's one of the things I think that the DMs, hirelings that's kind of missed about hirelings, right? They also have morale scores. And so, it's not just that I hire them and they're here and, now he's holding the torch or he's helping me in certain ways, right? They have morale scores. They have, they can break. They have loyalty scores. They can quit. They can turn on you. And how you treat them tells them how if they're going to stay or not, right? Their loyalty, exactly. So I've done a lot of videos on that too. So I'll put it up in the cards there where you can check it out. But hirelings and henchmen are not just dumb people walking around with you. They have real lives, real motivations, and so DMs play them that way. And the reason why I even bring up hirelings is because they are the first step in name level progression. At low levels, you hire muscle to survive, right? And at mid levels, you start building reputation, right? And then at name levels, the followers arrive. It's a continuous arc, not a sudden transformation, right? So mechanic number 4, which is very important, and it's the dungeon turn. I talk about this all the time, and this one sounds like bookkeeping until you understand what it actually does. Right? In first edition, time in the dungeon is tracked in 10-minute increments. Right? Every turn, the DM rolls wandering monsters, torches burn, spells expire, things happen in those 10 minutes. Right? on page 37 of the DMG. Read it, guys. Page 37. There's a whole section on time. Time over here. Okay. Modern players might think, oh, that sounds stupid, tedious, whatever. Who cares? Well, why bother, right? Well, here's why. The dungeon turn makes time a resource, right? Every 10 minutes costs something, so every decision has a price, right? So do we rest here, push deeper, etc.? That tension, the ticking time clock that we talk about underneath every decision is what makes exploration feel dangerous, not the monsters. The clock. Players who understand the dungeon turn play completely different. They move fast. They make decisions fast. They know that every single minute spent arguing is another turn, right? Another wandering monster check. And the wandering monster roll isn't there to punish slow players. It's there to make the dungeon feel real. So like the place exists independently from the party. A place it gets more hostile as the longer that you stay in there, right? Gary designed that deliberately. The dungeon is not a static puzzle to just be solved, right? It's a living environment that has its own rhythms, right? So, all right, you guys, so here's the system Gary built to keep campaigns alive, right? Gold for XP keeps them hungry. The training system makes advancement a decision, not a reward. Hirelings make the game early, the early game survivable, right? The dungeon turn makes it feel real, makes time feel real. All those working together carry the party from level 1 to name level without the campaign ever running out of game, right? Run these mechanics and your campaign will not die at level 7. I guarantee you. Not because you're a better DM, because Gary built the prevention system into the rules, okay? And you're finally running it. You're finally running it. You're finally running this. So next video, what happens when you actually get there? What happens when you actually get to name level? Okay, the night that the Saturday night that the fighter hits level 9, what Gary wrote happens at that exact moment. The scene, that fires when name level arrives. I want to walk you through that whole thing. So that's going to be our next video, right? All right, you guys will subscribe, drop in a comment. Which of these 4 mechanics are you missing right now? Tell me. I want to hear it. I want to hear it. I want to know how it's going for you guys. So, Gary wrote this manual. I run it. Game on, guys. Take care of each other. See you guys on the next one. Let's find out what happens at name level. Bye-bye.